Hi AP. Okay, this is our second video related to cadences. We're going to just do a review of the cadence types and listen to some cadences and identify them. So let's do a review. Authentic cadences are classified as perfect or imperfect. To be considered a perfect authentic cadence, 5 must be used rather than the 7 diminished. Both chords must be in root position, and the highest note of the one in major or minor must be the tonic of the scale, Do. So all of the above are required for a perfect authentic cadence. As in the example, in the key of C major, I have a 5 chord in root position to a 1 chord, a major 1 chord. The soprano in the 1 chord is singing Do, which is tonic. Here it is. Listen again. Sing the bass with me. Sol, Do. Again. Sol, Do. And that's our perfect authentic cadence. Imperfect authentic cadences fail to meet all those requirements. So look at these 3 measures, treat each one individually, and explain the reasons why the 3 examples above are not perfect authentic cadences. I'll give you a moment. In the first measure, we can clearly see that the bass is not singing Sol, Do. It's not a 5 to a 1, it's a 7 diminished 6th to a 1. Even though the soprano is singing Do in the last chord, it's not a 5-1 progression, so that's why this is imperfect authentic. In the second measure, we have a 5-6 to a 1. The 5 chord is in first inversion. The bass is singing T, Do, not Sol, Do. In the last measure, we do have a 5 to a 1 in root position, so the bass is singing Sol, Do. However, in the 1 chord, in the last measure, the soprano is not singing tonic. It's singing dominant, or the 5th scale degree. Let's listen to these imperfect authentic cadences that fail to meet the requirements of a perfect authentic cadence. Here is the first one. You'll hear a 7 diminished 6 to a 1. Hopefully you can hear the soprano singing T, Do and the bass singing Re, Do. One last time for measure 1. In the next example, we have a 5-6 to a 1. The bass is singing T, Do. Listen for that. Again. And in the last measure, we have a 5-1 in root position, but you'll notice that the soprano stays on Sol, making it an imperfect authentic cadence. Let's listen to the last measure. One more time. And those are imperfect authentic cadences. Another type of cadence we reviewed is the Play-Doh Cadence, PC. Play-Doh cadences are phrases ending with a 4-1 major or 4-1 minor, and that is considered Play-Doh. I will play these examples, and you will notice the sound of the Play-Doh cadence. Let's listen. Two chords serve as our Play-Doh cadence, going from major 4 to major 1 in the key of C major. Let's listen again. Let's recall our study of second inversion triads. And in the first measure, we have a 1 to a 5-6-4 to a 1-6. Can you identify the type of 6-4 chord that is? Is it arpeggiated? How about passing? Or a cadential? Well, hopefully you saw the bass go do, re, mi. So that would be a passing 6-4 chord. Let's listen to this chord progression one more time and listen for the amen at the end for the Play-Doh Cadence. And there's our Play-Doh. One more type of cadence is the Deceptive Cadence, or DC. Deceptive Cadence is a phrase ending with 5 major or 5 minor, going to any chord but 1 major or minor. So here is a progression that involves a Deceptive Cadence. Notice again I have my passing 5-6-4 that goes to a 1 in first inversion, to a 5 chord which wants to go to 1, but it's misleading to our ear because instead of going from 5 to 1, we're going 5 to 6 in root position. Let's listen to this Deceptive Cadence. For Deceptive Cadences in root position, the bass is singing sol, la. Let's listen. And that is our Deceptive Cadence. Deceptive cadences, you should note, occur with all types of inversions. More often than not, the 5 will go to the 6 for major and minor. So I'll play it one more time and you can hear the deception of the Deceptive Cadence. And let's move on. Okay, another review of cadences. Okay, we have 2 examples of perfect authentic cadences at the top. Any cadence progressing 5 to 1 is an authentic cadence, but 2 types of authentic cadences exist. There's the perfect authentic cadence, which occurs when both your 5 and 1 chords are in root position and the soprano ends on the tonic of the key, which is do in solfege. The above examples show 2 perfect authentic cadences in C major, and perfect authentic cadences are the strongest of cadences, orally. Let's listen to the first perfect authentic cadence. We have a 1-4-5-1. Let's listen again. Good. In the next measure, I just noticed that it was a first inversion chord because the E is in the bass, so I just added a 6 there. So let's listen to the next perfect authentic cadence. In the next measure, we have a 1-6 to a 4 to a 5 to a 1. The difference is that the soprano and alto and tenor notes are a little bit different. It is still a PAC because we have a 5 to 1 root position progression, and we have soprano singing do in the 1 chord. Let's listen to this progression. Listen to it again. To play both measures back to back without stopping so you can hear the 2 spots where the perfect authentic cadence occurs from the beginning. we look down here, we have the imperfect authentic cadence, known as IAC. Here are 4 measures, each containing an imperfect authentic cadence for the last 2 chords. The imperfect authentic cadence follows the same progression as a PAC. However, either your 5 chord is in an inversion, your 1 chord is in an inversion, or your soprano does not end on the tonic. All 3 conditions are possible, but if even one of them exists, it is classified as an imperfect authentic cadence. The above examples show various IACs in C major. Some only contain one of the 3 conditions. An imperfect authentic cadence also may contain a progression of 7 diminished to 1. Though imperfect authentic cadences orally are strong cadences harmonically, inversions and final resolutions in the soprano cause it to sound slightly weaker than the perfect authentic cadence. Let's listen to the first measure, where we're in C major and we have a 1 chord to a 4 chord, to a 5/6 chord, to a 1 chord. So the things that I've circled in that first measure are the reasons why it is imperfect as opposed to perfect. Notice it's not 5 to 1, but it's 5/6 to 1. And in the last chord, the soprano is not singing tonic. Let's listen to the first measure. In the second measure, both of our last chords are in inversion, first inversion, 5/6 to 1/6. So although the soprano is singing do in the last chord, the C, because the bass is not singing sol do, makes it imperfect. Let's listen to the second measure of the imperfect authentic cadence. And one more time. In the next measure, we don't even have a 5 chord, we have a 7 diminished 6. Remember, we like to write 7 diminished chords in first inversion, okay, because we don't like to double the leading tone. So in this example, because we have the 7 diminished 6 to the 1, that's an imperfect authentic cadence, and we also have the soprano not singing tonic in the 1 chord. Let's listen to this progression. One more time. And in the last measure, we have a 1/6 to a 4 to a 5 to a 1. Well, the bass is singing sol to do, but the soprano in the last chord is not singing do. It's singing mi, making it imperfect as opposed to perfect. Let's listen to the last measure. And one more time. Then there's the Play-Doh cadence. Play-Doh cadences are 4 to 1 cadences. It's important to note that Play-Doh cadences may occur in any inversion. Play-Doh cadences are also commonly seen as minor 2-1 progressions. Orally, these cadences give you the feeling of resolution, however, do not contain a strong pull towards the tonic chord. Play-Doh cadences are often heard in church music, ending a prayer on the word Amen. In the first measure, our Play-Doh cadence occurs on the last 2 chords, with a 4 chord in first inversion, followed by a 1. It's still considered to be Play-Doh. Listen to the first measure and see if you can hear the Amen of the Play-Doh cadence. Listen again. In the second measure, we have a Play-Doh cadence, but this time we have a 4-chord in root position and the tonic triad in first inversion. So a 4 to a 1/6 is still considered Play-Doh. Let's listen to the second measure. And one more time. In the last measure, we have a 1, 1, minor 2, 1. And we just learned that a minor 2 to a 1 chord is considered Play-Doh. The reason why 2 to 1 is considered Play-Doh is almost like 4-1, because remember, in the minor 2 and the major 4 chord, we have 2 common tones. So let's listen to the last measure and hear the Play-Doh cadence of a 2 to a 1. The 2 chord sounds very similar to the 4 chord, but it's a minor 2 chord. Let's listen again. So let me play all 3 measures in a row so you can get a sense of the progression of a Play-Doh cadence. So here is the first one. And we have half cadences. Half cadences end on a 5 chord. Rarely, though possibly, it can end on a 7 diminished chord. Half cadences may be seen in any inversion. They sound incomplete as they imply a continuation in the music. Usually, half cadences are found in the middle of phrases, forcing them to move along. They create a sense of tension that needs release, as in a cadenza of a solo. Or, if a composer just wants to be really mean, he or she may use them at the end of a piece to leave a music theory student in distress. Let's listen to the first half cadence. We have a 1 chord to a minor 6 in root position, followed by a 4/6 to a 5. If that 4/6 went to a 1 chord, it would be Play-Doh. But we have a 4/6 going to a 5 chord, making it a half cadence. Let's listen. One more time, let's listen to the first measure. And you hear the soul in the bass that's just not resolving because it's indeed a half cadence. In the second measure, we have a 1 chord again, followed by a minor 6 chord. And now we have a 4 chord in root position, followed by a 5/6, which is also considered to be a half cadence. Let's listen to the second measure. And one more time. And let's move down to the Deceptive Cadence. The Deceptive Cadence is almost as evil as the half cadence, except it will not leave you hanging as much. The deceptive cadence resolves 5 to 6, creating a sense of tension that resolves, but does not resolve where you want it to go. Deceptive cadences often occur in the middle of a phrase, causing the phrase to extend further until you reach your tonic. Deceptive cadences are found in all inversions. Let's listen to measure 1 of the deceptive cadence. We have a major 1 to a major 4 to a 5 to a 6. If I were to just play the first 3 chords, we would be looking at a half cadence. But all 4 chords make it a deceptive cadence. Let's listen. Hopefully you heard the bass from the 5 to the 6 chord going sol to la. Let's listen again. The next measure contains an example of a deceptive cadence where we use inversion. We have a 1 chord to a major 4 chord to a 5 chord in first inversion to a 6 chord in first inversion, still making it a deceptive cadence. Let's listen. One more time. In this particular case, the tenors are singing that sol to la. Let's listen to the tenor line extra. Here it is again. And there's our deceptive cadence. So here's a common cadence progression. So we have a half cadence where we can start on any chord and go to the 5. Our authentic cadence is 5 to 1, sometimes 7 diminished to 1. Our Play-Doh cadence is 4 to 1, and our deceptive cadence is 5 to anything but 1. Here are some additional notes that we can look at. Harmonic cadences. So as tonal goals, harmonic cadences resolve to stable chords, generally root position major or minor triads. So here is our authentic, which can be a 5 to a 1 or a 5-7 to 1 in both major and minor. And note we also can go from the 7 diminished 6 to the 1 in major or minor. Remember that when you are writing harmonic progressions using the 7 chord, to always use it in first inversion. So we need the 7 diminished 6. The authentic cadences are the most important cadence, resolve 7 to 8 and 4 to 3. In other words, ti, do, fa, mi. If a musical phrase is a sentence, an authentic cadence is a period. So for perfect authentic, recall the 2 criteria. The soprano must end on tonic, and the bass goes 5 to 1, or sol to do. For imperfect authentic, all others. Inverted chords or 7 diminished chords substitute for a 5 chord, making it imperfect. For our half cadence, it ends on 5. A half cadence is a comma. Note the Phrygian half cadence, where the bass goes down 1/2 step, and that Phrygian half cadences, you'll recall, occur in minor keys, and the bass will be singing lay, sol. That's a half step. So our deceptive cadence will fool us. It can be a 5 to a 6, 5 to a minor 6, or a 5 to a major 6 if we're in minor, Or we can even have a 7th chord, 5-7 to a 6 in major and minor. Rarely, but common, but not as much, you'll see a 5 to a 4-6 also. Like an authentic cadence, resolve 7 to 8 in a deceptive cadence. Moving on to our Play-Doh Cadence, aka the Amen Cadence, often heard after the final authentic cadence. It's a 4 to a 1 in major or minor, and rarely, but you'll see it, it could be a 2 to a 1 or a 2-6 to 1. It's important to know that these cadences have other names that you might come across. Of course, we're using the most popular and the most common name, that being authentic, half, deceptive. But authentic cadences can also be known as full close, closed cadence, final cadence, and full cadence. Half cadence is also known as half closed, open cadence, imperfect cadence, semi-cadence, and incomplete cadence. Deceptive cadences are also known as, I love this one, avoided cadence, broken cadence, interrupted cadence, and irregular cadence. Here's another cadence chart that we can just quickly examine. So again, a cadence is a 2-chord progression that occurs at the end of a phrase. So our half cadence for major keys and minor keys will end on a 5. Authentic, 5 to 1 in major or minor. For perfect authentic, as long as soprano sings tonic in the 1 chord. Or imperfect authentic cadence, such as a 7 diminished 6 to a 1 in major or minor. Play-Doh cadence, 4 to a 1 in major or minor. Deceptive cadence, 5 to a minor 6 in major, or 5 to a major 6 in minor. Quick review: to be a perfect authentic cadence, an authentic cadence must use a 5 chord instead of a 7 diminished chord. A perfect authentic cadence must have both the 5 chord and the 1 chord in root position. And a perfect authentic cadence must have the highest note of the 1 chord be the same as the tonic of the scale in the soprano. That's all for today's video, AP. The next video, we will listen to harmonic progressions and cadences and try to identify the type, just based on what we hear, without actually seeing it on paper. Have a great day.